Yeah, about 1:55 this afternoon, officers were called out to a domestic disturbance here at the IHOP. Officers arrived on scene. They were conducting their investigation, came across an individual that was involved in the domestic. During their investigation, a struggle ensued between the officers and the subject. During the struggle, a firearm was discharged. With that discharge, the officer was struck. The officer was transported to a local hospital. Non-life-threatening injuries at this point. The subject that was involved with the assault on the officer was taken into custody. She sustained some minor injuries as a result of the struggle, but she's been taken into custody and transported for further investigation.
Do we know how that altercation started?
It's just as a result of their investigation. They were here on the domestic dispute, got on scene, spoke to the individuals, and then the struggle began at some point.
And this IHOP was open at the time of this going on, of course?
I believe so.
The suspect was able to get hold of the officer's gun. Is that how she was shot? Was it a female officer or a male officer? I'm sorry.
It was a female officer. At this point, we're early on in the investigation as to the firearm that was used and the discharge with that firearm. So we'll be releasing more of that information as we further investigate.
And do you know where the officer was shot? Did you say
that? The officer was shot in the leg.
How long has she been with the department?
I couldn't tell you that offhand. I would have to go back and find that information out.
There was only one shot that was fired?
At this point, we believe there was only one shot that was fired.
Do we know how long these roads will be closed off?
Not at this point. We're doing the investigation, so we come out, we process the scene. It takes a while. We've been in contact with the businesses in the area to let them know the impact that it would have on them, but I don't have a time frame at this point.
Tell me about the response and what it takes when you understand something like that's going on. Obviously, you guys are monitoring y'all's radios and you hear officer down. What does it take to do this? I see 20, 30 police cars here from different agencies. I saw Secret Service here.
Yeah.
What was the response today?
Anytime something like that comes out over the radio, it's going to generate a significant response within the department and any other law enforcement agency that may have access to that. I know we had a number of officers respond. Once we get here, we kind of get the scene under control. We tend to, anybody that may be injured, that's the number one priority. Once we get that done, then it kind of slows down and it takes its time after that. So you have that initial rush, we get things under control. Once we do that, we slow it down and then just start the investigative process.
How will that work? Will you have an outside agency? Does the SBI have to come in on one like this or not, since it was? Tell me a little bit about that.
This does not require the SBI to come in. With this investigation, we will handle internally.
The suspect in custody, what is their name and age?
I don't have that information at this time.
Release the officers' name?
Or gender as well, either?
And guys, we're still early on, so once we get some of the details, we'll release them to you, but we just don't have that info at this point in time.
For the suspect, have you had any prior run-ins or any interactions with?
Again,
I have no information.
It's still very early, so once we actually get some more information, we'll try and get some of that to you. Okay?
And even genders as well, too?
We'll get you the ID on the officer and the suspect as soon as we have some information, all right?
You may not have this, I'm going to ask it, but do you know if they were just patrons that were here? Does it have to do with employees of IHOP, anything like that?
Once again, the investigation is still early. So, like I said, we were called out on that domestic. They responded to that they encountered. So, like I said, once we have some more details, we'll try and get them to you. But that's all we have for right now, guys. All right?
Is there a time frame for a next update with this?
Not at this point, no.